Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we figure out how to build and run a SaaS. I'm Benedikt.
And I'm Brian. Each week, we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we work on our products and keep the lights on by returning things to Costco. Today is September 15th, and I am feeling like I need some margin.
This is episode number 58, and I'm stressed out.
Okay, a double negative week.
Yeah.
We hit record a little late because you're waiting on a deploy to...
Yeah, a hotfix deploy. This has been a day. I mean, it's afternoon for me right now. And I figured it's a good idea to start... Well, to step back a little bit, we rolled out the new condition builder today and the new structure and whatever, like all the stuff I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
And I figured it's a good idea to start early today because then most of our customers are still asleep, which kind of worked out because I ran into some problems that only showed up once the code hit production. So all that testing, well, I'm not saying it was for nothing, but like this particular issue would only show up in production. And I had to debug it in production, and it was like a little bit of a nightmare.
Oh man, I'm sorry. Were you able to see immediately what was going on, or
no? It was like I deployed everything. And then it was a UI issue, so it was in the front end code. And like when you add a filter to a page, the component would just not show up. Instead, you'd get an error message in the console, and well, nothing would happen.
Yeah.
And of course, I tested it locally. I even connected the local build of the front end to the production backend, just to be sure. Like maybe there's something wrong with the backend. And locally it worked, but on production it did not. And it took me about an hour or so to figure out it was because of minification.
I was going to ask, is it?
So part of the new thing is it's using a lot of classes and stuff like that, and it basically infers the components to render from the class name. And when the minifier processed the script, it basically replaced all the class names with shorter ones like N or A5.
Yep.
And then the entire lookup didn't work anymore. So it just didn't work. And now I just disabled that particular feature in the minifier, and it's working.
Nice.
So one more thing to add to the list of things to look out for before production deploy. This was nothing I had on my radar whatsoever.
Yeah. Are you I mean, is your goal to re-enable that piece of minification? Like, does it make that big of a difference in performance, or it's like, no, let's just disable that and keep moving?
I just disabled it. It probably would be worth looking into it, but it also makes the code a lot more difficult to work with.
Okay.
Because like right now it's just a hierarchy of classes, and they're all kind of smart in their own regard, but that like a lot of that relies on the name being what it is. And I think it probably also doesn't hurt to have those in production, because it took me an hour to figure out what was going on because the error message didn't make any sense.
Right. Yes. I feel that.
Blah on I is null. Like, and I'm like,
not helpful. Yeah.
What's that? So now it's working, and things are good, but it was a little bit more stressful than I anticipated. What about you? You need more margin.
Yeah. I feel like I need more margin. I need more margin in time, in money, in just patience. Like, I just feel like I am running I just feel like I'm running really thin. And so it for sure feels, I mean, it feels seasonal. It doesn't feel like, this is a permanent, none of this is working, kind of a feeling. So much as I realize I'm having a hard time thinking creatively and feeling productive, because so much of my mental energy is just going towards, low level stress and anxiety, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just really hard to be creative when you feel, I mean, afraid or scared, like, or anxious. And so, and I mean, to keep things in perspective, like, of course, there's nothing actually to be, you know, completely like, quote, scared of in the, caveman in a cave afraid of saber-toothed tigers kind of a thing that my body is doing to me. But that is, the internal, like, feeling of, saving for college, need to replace a car, trying to figure out this business, and so I'm just, it just kind of occurred to me that is something I just need to sort out, is how to build up a little bit of, how to create some margin. I really, really, really do not want the answer to be, full-time employment. I just don't. And because that's the most obvious, that's one obvious thing. But there's a part of me that thinks, maybe the best thing I can do for Headlamp is to take a little bit of time to refocus on my consulting positioning and sales outreach, which I've just completely put off to the side. Like, I'm not giving that any thought at all. I'm just going right back to, this anchor client, you know what I mean? And just letting that run, and not thinking at all about my consulting pipeline or any of that. So yeah, so that's why I'm feeling, just, yeah, thin on margin, and can feel it having a creative and unproductive influence on my primary goal, Headlamp. So yeah, that felt good to just vomit all that out.
It's interesting. It feels like we had this conversation earlier this year,
Yeah.
at least a very similar one.
We did.
And then but your answer back then was, "Hey, I'm looking for a full-time job," and now you're like, "I'm definitely not looking for a full-time job."
I do actually, in a sense, think that at the time that could have been that could have been the right solution. I think for sure, had I landed one of those full-time jobs and, a pandemic not hit, then I would probably be feeling a little bit better about how much, margin I've got in, right now. But today, I think that would just end up being like a step, not necessarily even backwards, but just a lateral step that doesn't really get me that much further. I really feel like what strategically, what I need to figure out how to do is offer these sorts of these, meaning employee engagement around remote employees and, mental wellness, connection, et cetera, the things that Headlamp wants to do as a product, figure out how to offer those sorts of insights as a consultant, or as a, digital strategist, product strategist, whatever, so that headspace wise, I kind of stay in the same place throughout the week. And I think that would just help me build some momentum, stay in the same headspace, and still pay the mortgage. So Yeah, I need to get some. I mean, I can connect that actually to one of my so that's to say, I felt very unproductive code wise at the end of last week. Like I didn't get anything done that I told you I would get done. Like the marketing side and adding like onboarding stuff to the demo, like literally zero of that got done. I was doing a lot of client work, but I did have 2 really good conversations. So I'd mentioned before, I have 2 friends who are like senior VP of sales and VP of sales and marketing at upmarket companies, huge, like average account size of $250,000, and their target customer is 5,000 employees. Like, not even fair to call them competition. They're just way up market. I was just kind of talking, showing them around Headlamp and getting their feedback. They'd seen it before, and each said the same thing that they're seeing in their in their sales and everything, which is that most of the products are overbuilt and overpriced, and so that is what they continue to see, and so that was pretty encouraging. The discouraging part was neither of them could really put their finger on, and here is where the disruptive, this is what the disruptive feature set looks like. Each of them were like, I'm not really sure. It would definitely, we get a bunch of pushback that things are overpriced right now because the market and the products are over mature. So that was really, really encouraging. One of them in particular, it seems like there could be an opportunity for us to work together on the strategy side. Like there's no risk to them at all that I am going to, use any sort of insight. Like, let's do some market research and customer discovery together. And then, Brian Ray, one-man team, takes a bite out of there. Like, that's just not even on the radar. And so there's a win-win where, they're trying to figure out how to do something interesting and different in the market. So am I. Can we work together? So that could be really, really interesting and a huge win for me, in terms of being able to just stay in the same headspace all week long. So it felt good in that sense, but like hard productive code deploys, like nothing. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, it's a constant struggle, especially as a solo founder. If you'd be in the code every week the entire time, then you'd probably do something wrong. So I guess it's fine. You have weeks you're not productive on the code side of things, but making progress on the business development side of things.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think that's totally okay.
Yeah, that's how it felt. How about you? What's happening?
So the deploy was the major thing in the last couple of days. I'm glad that's been dealt with. Hopefully, no more issues. We are also working on landing pages for the paid ads.
Yeah.
Because right now, except for 1 or 2 campaigns, they're all just redirecting people to the homepage.
Okay.
And there's a little bit of a disconnect in terms of the messaging and the visuals and stuff like that. So Asia suggested that we create dedicated landing pages for at least most of the campaigns that kind of continue what's been said in the ad,
right.
repeat that on the landing page, have a visual, like the same visuals and images
just
and stuff like that.
Connects the journey. Yeah,
connect the journey, and then also have a more focused landing page that basically hammers this one point that the ad was about. So we're working on that last week. Asia was kind enough to write all the copy for the first page. And Jane worked on a design last week, and we had to create a couple new visuals and sections for the website. But we built those out on Friday. Did some tweaking yesterday, and today we were able to deploy the first version. So yeah, let's see how that works.
How
still have to link it up.
Yeah. How many different campaigns or how many different landing pages total are you talking?
Right now we only have one dedicated landing page, but this was basically the first one to get the infrastructure in place, figure out what we want to do design wise, and get like the missing components for the website in place. And based on that, the plan is to churn out more landing pages for the various campaigns.
Yeah, and how many? I'm just curious, like if somebody wanted to follow that approach, like how many
I'm not entirely sure how many campaigns are running in parallel exactly, but it's at least 7 or 8.
Okay, all right, cool.
On each platform, I know there are a couple of versions, different visual versions and copy versions on Facebook, and I think, it's mostly for Facebook, because on Google it's there are no visuals, so it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think we'll start using them tomorrow or so. And hopefully conversion rates will be much better on those pages. Overall, what's encouraging, for some reason, last week we got a lot of new trials, like several new trials per day, which
nice
is a new thing. This, except for like major launches, this has not happened in the past, at least not in the past couple of months. So that was exciting. I don't have a good explanation to why. Like, only a small fraction of those signups are actually from paid ads. But like organic traffic is up and trials are up. So I'm not complaining.
No.
And maybe we'll figure out what exactly is going on, but something's picking up. And it might very well be just like being September, everyone's back from vacation, getting back to work, or something like that. I mean, who knows?
So your organic traffic is up.
Yeah, organic traffic is up as well.
And but no idea, like, oh, it's because we bumped up on a particular keyword that drives traffic, or
like Google Analytics isn't showing anything significant, like that there's some keyword that just suddenly performs better than others. Like, it's just, organic traffic without a campaign attached to it, without a keyword attached to it, just more traffic overall. So who knows?
Great.
Yeah, I mean, it might be as well that I'm just not seeing something that's right there in the data, but I wasn't able to figure out a source of this.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the trend continues, and let us know if
you I'm definitely not complaining.
Down. Yeah.
And I also hope like most of those trials convert. Fingers crossed there. So yeah, that's the exciting stuff that happened last week. We also upgraded the production database last week, because while running the validations for the new filters and stuff like that, I noticed that some, like, evaluating some of the segments in our application took like 3 hours or so. And first, of course, I went in there and used that opportunity of having slow queries to figure out like how can we improve the database structure, what are the missing indexes that we still have to add, and was able to improve things by 4x. So didn't quite take that long anymore, but it's still super slow. So we decided to upgrade the database once again. I think the last upgrade happened sometime earlier this year. I should probably check, but we outgrew our current database plan again, And now things are significantly faster. Like everything, like even the slow segments are evaluated within 1 or 2 minutes instead of 3 to 4 hours.
Yes.
So it's much, much better again.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is it's a little bit of well, it's causing me some anxiety, I guess. Database is definitely hefty expense. And right now it's about 10% of our revenue that's just going to the database.
Yeah.
And admittedly, we are still on Heroku Postgres, so it's admittedly a very cheap, a very expensive option. There are cheaper ones out there, but it also comes with all the management, monitoring, all of it, and it's just very, very hands off right now, which I also appreciate. And I looked into alternatives, but it would only cut the expenses in half somewhat, but add a lot of more work, and it's still at a scale where it doesn't make a lot of sense to make the switch. It's painful, but unless we are saving several $1,000s per month, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to switch to something that requires more work.
At least right now, like it's a known issue. You know that years down the road, you don't want your database to be costing 10% of your revenue.
Yeah,
but there are alternatives and options, and at some point down the road, the trade-off will make sense. And right now, it doesn't. It seems like a fair.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's always a little bit painful upgrading the database. I'm not really adding any value. It's just it just doesn't suck as much as before. So it's but I mean, that's how it is. We're growing, so the database has to grow as well.
Yeah. What I mean, so go into a little bit of detail on that. Before, when it was taking 3 to 4 hours, and now when it takes 1 minute, what is the what is the impact of that on the customer? Like, what do they notice or not notice, or what do you notice or not notice?
The good thing about that part is the customer doesn't really notice, at least for the most part. When there's one of those heavy queries running, of course the entire database is slower, so you might notice that like the user list might load a little bit slower than usually. But like there's nothing user facing that takes several hours to load. That's
right.
That's at least that's the good part. But I mean, it's still a process that's running in the background, and that's taking up resources. So the faster it runs, the better. And also, I mean, updating the segment when it takes 3 hours, it might take. Well, users might join a segment 3 hours later than they would with a faster query, which usually isn't a big problem. But I mean, faster is always better.
Sure. So in reality, as a userless customer, I could try to build a segment, and meanwhile, a user has done something on in my application, and because that process takes 4 hours, I might be looking at results that are out of date. Is that like how the user might see it? Like, what's the problem with just letting it run for 4 hours in the middle of the night?
This is mostly related to stuff that's time-based. So we have the ability to add people to segments or remove people for segments when they did something within the last couple of days or something like that.
Got it. Okay.
So once a day, we basically check that for all your users in your account to see if, like, because of the conditions on the segment, does someone have to move into the segment or move out of the segment? And that's the part that takes long. If they do something in your app and basically you send new data, we just evaluate the segment, like all the segments for this particular user. And that's a much faster operation. So as long as there's activity, those updates get populated very quickly. But checking all your segments against all your users, that's the expensive part.
Okay. Yep.
So
that Thanks, man. I was just that explains it.
Yeah, but that's what happened last week. I think there wasn't anything else that's super exciting. Yeah.
All right. Anything for the upcoming week?
I will be on vacation soon, but I think I will be able. We are having a vacation from next Monday, but my plan is to record at least the next episode with you to recap on this week, and then I'll be off for a while, doing some hiking.
Nice. Like a couple of consecutive weeks.
Yeah, like we have a vacation, like 3-week vacation planned, but we will be away from home for like 10 days or so.
Okay.
The rest of the time we will at least be at home, and I have a feeling I might work a little bit, but yeah, I'll try to keep it to a minimum.
Good. Yeah, good for you. That'll be some good time. You're gonna be completely disconnected off the grid, or?
Well, I don't think we're in a phase where I'm allowed to go off the grid entirely.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Curious what the plan was.
I feel like that phase of my life is still a few years out.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But one of the reasons why I wanted to deploy this change today and not later this week was to have some margin there. So any problems that will come up this week and not next week.
Yeah.
And hopefully when I leave, things will be in a stable condition, so it's okay to not be there all the time. Yeah.
Great.
Let's cross.
Cool. Well, I'll look forward to talking to you next week, and then I'll line up some guests for the following.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, man. Good to catch up. Talk next week.
Have a good one. Bye.